Trade-offs are one of the most interesting concepts in gaming as a whole. The concept of giving up something to gain something else uniquely lends itself to strategy that isn't often seen within gaming. For example, is the power-up in damage you're acquiring worth losing 20% of your health? In one scenario, where you need lots of damage and can afford to give up lots of health, you'll take that. In another scenario, when health is of vital importance, you can't afford to give it up. This is just one example, but trade-offs as a whole are very interesting. But what about trade-offs in Brawl Stars? They exist, sure, but to say they're underutilized is an understatement. Only a select few brawlers have real trade-offs, and nowadays it seems like they have less and less of an interest in implementing them. So, in this video, we'll talk all about trade-offs, looking at some of the current examples of trade-offs in Brawl Stars, categorizing them, and then making some of our own. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to keep up with my videos. Second, join our Discord server. We have some fun stuff to do there, like our very own 1v1 rank called Gauntlet. Third, consider becoming a channel member if you're interested in supporting out the channel and have ample disposable income for some cool perks, like watching videos early or getting to decide on future video ideas. Finally, if you like the music in the video, it's all made by me, so check out my second channel for more music. First of all, let's go back to what exactly a trade-off is. Basically, just getting something but giving something up as a cost for the thing. I would say this doesn't extend to something like a gadget or a hypercharge. You're getting something, but there's no real express cost of using the thing other than the time it takes to recharge. And if we consider that a cost, then what isn't a trade-off? However, you can make an argument for old gadgets to have a cost, as each gadget use was limited to 3. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's organize trade-offs in Brawl Stars into 2 major categories. First, statistical trade-offs. Statistical trade-offs are the trade-offs we're probably most familiar with. These are the reductions of stats in one category in favor of the increase in stats in another category. The best example of this would have to be with Ash's gadgets, which are also some of the best designed gadgets in the game. Ash's first gadget is Chill Pill, which sees him recover 3,540 health when the gadget is used as full rage, but at the cost of all of his rage. His second gadget is Rotten Banana, which sees him lose 10% health and instantly gain 40% rage. Using these gadgets is very scenario based. If you're about to kill an enemy but also have low health, Chill Pill is perfect. If you have too much health but not enough rage or closeness to the enemies, Rotten Banana is perfect. However, something can always go wrong when using these gadgets. You can misjudge Chill Pill and lose too much health, therefore losing the matchup. You can misjudge Rotten Banana and lose too much damage and speed, losing out on a potential matchup win. This is the beauty of trade-offs. You have to be skilled in order to actually know when you're using it, and when not to, or you're going to pay a big price. This same thing can't really be said for many other gadgets, like, for example, Lily's gadget, which can let you do literally anything with almost no cost. The second type of trade-offs, and this is a little less clear, but basically it's mechanical trade-offs. What exactly is a mechanical trade-off? That's not an easy question to answer, but I'll try. It's basically gaining one specific mechanic at the cost of losing something else. This is more ingrained into the Brawler's base kit rather than unlockables like stat trade-offs. Pretty vague, I know, but I'll try to give some examples. I know I said Brawl Stars have been neglecting trade-offs lately, but that's not completely true. Let's take a look at Pierce. Pierce's trade-off comes from his final ammo mechanic. Once Pierce gets to his final attack, the attack will deal 58% more damage. However, this is at the cost of him being at 0 ammo, and the thing with Pierce is that once he gets to 0 ammo, he literally can't attack for an entire 3 seconds. This is such a significant drawback for him that, in my opinion, it counts as a trade-off. You can waste your first 2 attacks to get to the big attack, but using it comes with a big risk. You have to make sure you'll hit the shot, or you're gonna get punished accordingly. Willow's another brawler with a mechanical trade-off, though this time it's with her super. Willow's super sees her control another brawler, but at the cost of her standing still. And in a fast-paced game like Brawl Stars, this is a huge trade-off. You need to time your super very strategically. You need to make sure you're either protected by teammates or in a safe area when using your super. And finally, you need to make sure that you'll actually get more value out of using it than simply just using your main attack. Overall, there's a lot to take into consideration when using Willow's super, and you need to be skilled to properly use it. Before making some of our own, let's talk about some other examples of trade-offs in Brawl Stars. Another good example of a mechanical trade-off is Lola, though she technically fits into a mix of both. If she's too close to her ego, then her damage decreases. This forces you into choosing to have the ego near you, which is more consistent damage but less damage potential, or have the ego away from you, which is more risky but has more damage potential. Another example of a stat trade-off is with Gus's Soul Switcher gadget. This sees him lose 5% health but gain 100% spirit instantly. This is an interesting gadget. The health loss is extremely negligible, but gaining 100% spirit instantly is kind of a mid-reward. Usually his ghosts are used on offense, but you need the other gadget to use that. So overall, you're giving up basically nothing for a little bit of value. So in my opinion, they have the right idea by making it a trade-off, but it definitely needs a bit of a rework. I'm sure there are other examples in the game, but for the sake of time, I won't go through them. If you want to share some you find, definitely put them in the comments, especially if it's mechanical trade-offs, since they're more subjective than a simple stat trade-off. Now, let me talk about some ideas I would have as trade-offs for a whole, and specific ones as well. I feel like, as a whole, they've been underutilized in areas they could have worked very well in. First of all, gadgets. It feels like they were on the verge of something after Ash's gadgets, but they never really capitalized that afterwards. I feel, especially after the gadget rework, this could have been something interesting. Adding trade-offs to gadgets would make them even more strategic when it comes to usage, something that was kind of lost during the gadget rework. In my opinion, one gadget that could be much more interesting with a rework is Rico's multi-ball launcher gadget. In its current state, it's simply way too good and overshadows the other gadget. I would rework it to actually reduce Rico's speed while using it, making him a little less oppressive when using it and actually having to think a little bit more about usage, rather than just using the gadget at the first sign of trouble. Next, let's talk about buffies. Love them or hate them, I don't think you can argue with the fact they had a bit of wasted potential. They simply made brawlers who were way too powerful, and not even considering the atrocious costs for them like the PowerPoint and coin costs. I know Brawl Stars wanted to add them to help increase skill expression as well, so adding trade-offs to them would help fulfill both requirements. Reduce power and make them more skillful. One specific buffy change I would make is the Hypes buffy. Instead of just having it be Ems taking 0 damage for 0.5 seconds when activating her super, I would also not allow her to attack during that 0.5 second time. Or if that's too weak, give her a reduced damage during that time. This would force her to actually think about when to pop her super, as if you needed quick damage, using her super wouldn't just give you a free kill anymore. Finally, in brawler mechanics themselves. I know it's talked about mechanic trade-offs as a whole category, but even still, it's still quite underutilized, and it was difficult to find actual justifiable examples of it. Incorporating trade-offs into brawlers themselves can make brawlers a lot more interesting and add a new element of risk to the game that seems to be missing nowadays. One change I would make is to GG's dodging mechanic. I would also make it come with a 5% increase in all damage GG takes. This suddenly makes GG even more of a risky brawler, and it also forces GG players to learn how to dodge even better than they currently need to, with the added risk involved. You can maybe buff her in another way to offset this, like her supercharge, but I feel like this would make GG a much more interesting brawler, even more than she currently is. Overall, I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential with trade-offs in Brawl Stars. Whether it be in gadgets, buffies, or in brawlers themselves, Brawl Stars can definitely make the game much more skilled and interesting to play by implementing more trade-offs into the game. Let me know your own ideas for trade-offs in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.